The Graduate, Patton, and the Moon are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is December 21st, 2021. It is the 355th day of the year. We got 10 days left. It is the 51st Tuesday in the 52nd week, and it is the first day of winter. Winter is finally here. And it looks like here in Portland, we're going to get some snow the day after Christmas, so winter is showing up finally. Today is National Crossword Puzzle Day. Crossword Puzzle Day on December 21st commemorates the birth of the challenging word game enjoyed by millions around the world. The first crossword puzzles were published in England in children's books and other publications. They were simple word games. You know what a crossword puzzle is. I don't need to explain it to you. The original purpose was to play fun games to help kids learn, but now it's grown into this major thing. One of my favorite movie interactions was in this movie with Roger Moore, who we just talked about. He was one of the 007s, but he was playing another movie where he was this English code breaker after World War II. He's supposed to be this super genius guy, and he's sitting in the back of the room like doing needlepoint. He was weird. He was eccentric, and they were trying to figure out this code, these, spy type guys, and someone said something, another guy said something, and he just from the back of the room spits out the answer, and they're all, that's it. And this one guy turns around and goes, I bet you're one of those guys that does the Times crossword puzzle in under 10 minutes. And he sets down his needlepoint all upset. He's all, I have never taken 10 minutes. Great movie, Folks, it's called. All right, let's see what else December 21st has given us. 1620, the Plymouth Colony. William Bradford and the Mayflower Pilgrims land on what is now known as Plymouth Rock in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Imagine if we brought some of them back like in a time machine and showed them what like Massachusetts or the entire United States, which they kind of found, they're the first people to really show up here and start settling it from Europe. They'd probably take a look and want to get back on their ship and head back. 1913, Arthur Wynn's Word Cross, the first crossword puzzle, is published in the New York World newspaper. The New York World was a newspaper published in New York City from 1860 to 1931. The paper played a major role in the history of American newspapers. It was kind of like laid down the groundwork for what we have today and what's slowly fading away. 1936, the first flight of the Junkers Ju-88 multi-role combat aircraft happens. This was a major part of the German military in World War II. This thing was almost a fighter, not as good as, like, let's say the Messerschmitt or the Mustang for the United States or even the Spitfire for the British. But it was multi-rolled. It could bomb people and it could participate in air-to-air combat. So it was very functional. I've watched a few documentaries. I'm a big World War II fan. I've watched a few documentaries where they brought up that this thing made this screeching sound as it would dive bomb things. So they would hear that noise. A lot of the old British and American soldiers said they would hear that whine sound, that screech, and they would get down because they knew some bombs were coming. 1937, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the world's first full-length animated feature, premieres at the Carthay Circle Theater in Los Angeles, California. And if it wasn't for the success of this movie, we probably wouldn't have the Disneyland and Disney World and Disney that we know today. This kind of put them on the map and gave them a lot of money to do a lot of other things. 1963, Bloody Christmas begins in Cyprus, ultimately resulting in the displacement of 25 to 30,000 Turkish Cypriots. I believe that's how you pronounce it, like you're a person from Cyprus, Cypriots? I hope that's right. And the destruction of more than 100 villages. 1968, the Apollo program. Apollo 8 is launched from the Kennedy Space Center, placing its crew on a lunar trajectory that makes them the first humans to visit another celestial body. Only 7 years earlier, President Kennedy had said we were going to the moon. Well, actually a little less, about 6.5 years earlier. He said we were going to the moon, and most people thought he was crazy. I watched this one documentary that a lot of religious people thought that once we got out of Earth's orbit, originally they thought once we get into orbit that, God was going to strike them down. And then after that didn't happen, they said once they leave the orbit, God's going to strike them down. Well, these guys didn't get struck down, so they had to change their theory. Once you get beyond the moon, God was going to strike you down. Those people are silly. I'm not anti-religion at all. I'm anti-stupidity and BS. Anyway, this was quite an undertaking. The 3 men that did this were extremely brave. I've actually seen a mock-up of the capsule that they used, and it's really small. And my first thought was, how do these men fit their testicles in here? Because they had to be giant to do this. Think about it. They were leaving the Earth's orbit, in the atmosphere and all that. It was already a big step just to get into orbit, but now these guys are going out to another, not planet, but a moon, way beyond it. A lot of the people that worked on this privately didn't think there was more than a 50-50 chance of getting these men back. That fear was realized a couple flights later when Apollo 13 went up, and actually Jim Lovell, who in the movie Apollo 13 was played by Tom Hanks, he was on this flight too, Apollo 8. And if you don't know, Apollo 13 was on their way to the moon and they were going to do lander thing and all that, and one of their oxygen tanks blew up and they almost didn't get those guys back. If you've never seen the movie Apollo 13, it's one of the best Tom Hanks movies you'll see. But these three men spent Christmas, well, not on the moon, but around the moon. They orbited the moon 10 times and headed back. They landed back on Earth in the North Pacific Ocean in between Hawaii and Samoa on December 27th, 1968. If you want to know how rough this was, have three friends join you in the bathroom for like 2 weeks. See how long you last. Because that's about the size of it. Imagine a normal bathroom with a shower in it and stuff like that, which they didn't really have a shower, but it's about that size where you and three friends would have to stay. All in all, for its time, this was a frickin' miracle. 1970, the first flight of the F-14 multi-role combat aircraft. Again, here we go with a lot of different airplane stuff. Got another one coming up. 1988, a bomb explodes on board Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland, killing 270. This, to date, is the deadliest air disaster that occurred on British soil. I had a friend who was in the Army. I went to high school with him. He was in Germany, and this was one of the flights he could have taken home for the holidays. And he didn't because it was like sold out or something like that. Movies released on December 21st, 1967, The Graduate. Dustin Hoffman, one of his finest roles. And Bancroft, William Daniels, who played Dustin Hoffman's dad, he's still alive. He's 94. Norman Fell was in this. He was Mr. Roper, if you don't remember him. Great movie, though. Great movie. There's a movie that came out in 2005 with Jennifer Aniston, Kevin Costner, Shirley MacLaine, Mark Ruffalo, and Richard Jenkins. This movie and the tie-in to The Graduate is genius. If you've never seen this movie, it was directed by Rob Reiner. Definitely see that movie. Just a great movie. Anyway, back to The Graduate. It is ranked by the American Film Institute as the 17th greatest American film of all time. At the Academy Awards, they were nominated for everything. Dustin Hoffman was, Anne Bancroft, Catherine Ross. They were all nominated for things, but the only thing they won was Best Director. To be fair, they were up against Cool Hand Luke, The Dirty Dozen, In the Heat of the Night, Bonnie and Clyde, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? These are all great movies, so I kind of understand, but they at least got the Best Director. Born on December 21st, 1948, Samuel L. Jackson. Everybody loves Samuel Jackson. I mean, he was in so many good movies. Pulp Fiction, Star Wars, The Negotiator, Jurassic Park, Jackie Brown, The Sphere. A lot of people, I always see this trivia thing come up, and a lot of people always think that he got his start on that kids show back in the 70s, The Electric Company. But that was actually Morgan Freeman, not Samuel L. Jackson. But there is a tie-in. Before fame, he co-founded an acting group called Just Us Theater while in college, and later became an apprentice to Morgan Freeman. He was also one of the ushers at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral. Died on December 21st, 1945, we lost George S. Patton. That's General George S. Patton. He was a 4-star United States Army general and iconic commander who led a succession of victorious attacks in Italy, France, and Germany during World War II. He attended VMI, which is the Virginia Military Institute, and the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. He was also an Olympic athlete. He finished 5th in the pentathlon event in 1912 at the Summer Olympics. Very, very interesting man, and he was extremely arrogant. Oddly enough, that is one trait most generals have. They're extremely arrogant, and you kind of need to. If you're a person that's second-guessing yourself when people's lives are in your hands, you're really, not doing things right. It's my opinion, at least. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a productive day, and be nice to each other.